So I guess just kind of getting started out, could you give me a little bit of background on um, who you are and your real estate business?
Yep. Well, I've been in the business for 50 years. I started June 15th, 1970 at 1 o'clock. And so my business has changed. I'm one of those proponents of follow the cheese. And so we've changed over the years. About 20 years ago, we got involved with REO. And so in REO, um, it's very specialized. Not everybody should be in that. And just recently, 2 years ago, after 48 years of having my own company, I turned that company over to my wife so that we could get female minority designation. And so then I went over to EXP and am doing the EXP thing with agents and so on. So after 50 years, it has ranged from commercial to residential, on and on.
Right. So I guess when did you get into the divorce list? How did that come about?
Like a lot of things, it's by chance. I was working with one of our agents who was exceptionally interested in people getting divorced. And so we looked around and we wanted to work together on something. So what we did is we found Smart Agents, the site itself. We saw that it had it. So she and I got together and did it as a team. And so both our pictures are on the book. And it was not hard to go out and figure out how to find, who's getting divorced and what's happening and that sort of thing. So we just followed that through. And the thing about the book is it just is an absolute easy opener. You can take the book and hand it to somebody, and it's not offensive, anything bad. And now you have an opening to talk to people about what they need to be doing.
How did you said it was easy to find the divorcing couple. How did you go about finding them?
It's all registered. Everything is registered in our surrounding counties. And so we didn't sign up for anything special. All we did is make contact with the county and took their information and went from there.
Okay, so you got in touch with a county clerk or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What kind of?
Well, the other thing we did, and this is probably equally important, a certain percentage of the books ended up in the hands of attorneys who handle divorces. And so that helped as well.
So, okay. Let me go back to the clerk real quick. What kind of questions were you asked? I mean, was it just a basic question of how do I access this information or?
Yeah, we went to the county and just said, is this automated? Can we pick it up by the internet? Can we do this? Can we do that? When we finally got all of our answers, we realized what work we did or didn't have to do personally and physically.
Okay. And then for the attorneys, are these people, I mean, how did you make that relationship with these attorneys?
That's tougher. Attorneys are attorneys and they have their own thoughts on things, and they just didn't want us interfering with their people. And when they finally read the book, they realized that it wasn't a case of interference. We were just an adjunct to everything they were doing.
So you used the books to help kind of break the ice with the attorneys then, I guess.
Absolutely. And it took a while. It wasn't immediate. Some of them never read it. It ended up either in their trash can or on the shelf behind them. But when they saw that we were persistent and we were serious about taking care of all the people, then they started opening up to us.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, this is a touchy niche. So having that, showing that you do care, I think is really important in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very specialized. It's very different. Its emotions are at a high. And so every word you say, every action you take has to satisfy both people. And they're at odds usually with each other. Even when it's a friendly divorce, it's not friendly.
Right. I mean, you're talking about money being split up, and it's a lot of touchy subjects there. So when you did break the ice with attorneys, how did that, what kind of partnership did you develop with them?
We would go by their office. We would drop it off so they would see us physically. Uh, they would know who we were. We'd give them some background. Our bios were there. So it was seeing them and then seeing them again and then emailing them and then seeing them again. And it's very much like real estate. About the eighth time, maybe the 10th, they started breaking down. And they say, well, what about this? Oh, I've got an odd one for you that my normal realtors won't handle. And when that happened, we knew we were in.
Right. That's excellent. So then it really, once you kind of show that your ability to handle these once or twice, it's good from there. You have that relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
So over the course of the years you've been doing this, how successful has it been for you?
Well, what happened, that's another good story. The partner that I had with the divorce decided to meet up with somebody from China who is extremely wealthy, and she decided not to do real estate anymore. And she's also an attorney. So it was all good till she met up with this fellow, and that was the end of her doing it. During the period of time that we did it, we only had about 100 books. And so out of the 100, our return on investment for that and our return on investment for spending time with the attorneys and whatnot ended up over a period of time with about 10 sales, which is fine. That's more than enough to pay for everything.
Right. I mean, so I guess a 10%.
Oh, sorry. 10 sales, the divorced home. We went on to sell either both or one or the other, a new home as well.
Okay. So it wasn't just 10 homes. It could be anywhere from 20 to 30, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, that is a good return for 100 books. And I understand the time investment in there is also, you have to factor that in too.
Sure.
So when you are working with a divorcing couple, what are some of the kind of the talking points, and how do you handle those situations?
Delicately, but here's the thing. You have to figure out what it is they really want to be hearing. And as long as it's within the parameters of what you're supposed to be doing, you're fine in talking about it. You can't say to the wife, well, I never really liked that guy. That doesn't work, because she might still like him for all you know, and he was causing the divorce. So it was just fact finding and trying to be helpful and make them feel on both sides that it was just our job to be helpful and get them the most money we could for the home.
And if things did get a little touchy between them, I mean, I'm assuming they have their own separate attorneys that are working. So you're not just working with the homeowners, you're also working with the attorneys as well.
Yes. Keeping them in the loop the entire time. And both sides.
Right. So,
and if you want to know another interesting one, it's when one of them wants to keep the home and you're working with them. And now the one wants it to be showing very low and the other one wants it as high as possible. So it's all a balancing act.
Right. And I guess transparency on your part is huge.
Yes. Yeah. The biggest thing is trust. It just has to be that they both trust you to do what's best for the both of them.
Right. What are some things that you've learned over the years that are things to avoid when working in a niche like this, or anything that does have that kind of touchy subject matter?
Confrontation in general. You can't say you're wrong. You have to work with them, and sometimes you have to work with each side and be father confessor, because they want to tell you things that have nothing to do with the home. So you have to be willing to sit there and listen to them and make some judgments from that. What is it that they're trying to accomplish?
Right. It really is. It's about being able to listen and then decipher, kind of read between that.
And it's really like all real estate sales, because you have the husband and the wife, and of course the wife wins. But in divorce situations, that's not always the case, and it's at a new level. It's not the same old same old. You have to be really listening to what's being said, and you got to be listening to what the attorney wants,
Right.
and you're hearing that from two different attorneys. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's the same attorney. Often two different attorneys.
Right. And that can get really difficult because you're not dealing, sometimes the client and an attorney could disagree on things too. You have to.
Oh, absolutely. So you have to be able to explain yourself. Why are you doing or thinking what you're doing or thinking?
Right. What, so just going back to the information that you would get from the county, what are the things that you're looking for?
Just who they are. That's the biggest thing. Do they have a marital home? If they're living in an apartment, we're not as concerned, because you're going to be most likely moving to an apartment. And we, in particular, don't do any rentals. So we're looking for people that have a home. That's number one for us.
Right. So for somebody, let's say somebody has never searched the county clerks, is never kind of gone down this road, even knows how to search these. Where do you, and I know it's different in each place, it can be different in each place, but what kind of things to even get started to start curating that list for you?
For whatever your county is, just call the county and ask them how they get that information, when they get information, and what can be released. Once that's done, you know what to do. Because again, you're only looking for those that have some type of real estate that they own.
Right. And that's really going to help you kind of weed through your process to.
Oh, sure. You don't want to be sending the book to an apartment dweller.
Right. Right. I guess let me just, while I have you here, so with the books, I know you were doing the divorce. What are you working on with the books now?
Well, I have one right here. My latest is that, and probate, and of course I have a partner that I do it with. Now for me, I like having the female with the male, because that way they can choose one or the other, and they'll be happy to do that. So in particular, this person, Crystal King, who we're now doing this with for probate, that is an interest for her. She likes that. I have a designation, CPRES, for probate. And so between the two of us, we combined and said, all right, this is something we'd like to do. We'd like to help them. And coming from Florida, a lot of elderly in Florida still. And so the people are living in North Carolina, California, wherever they might be living. So it's our job again to help them go from point A to point B.
Right. And yeah, I guess that's another kind of niche that we do get a lot of questions on. And I mean, what are some tips and advice you might have for people that are trying to work in that as well?
Well, it's again the same kind of thing. It's recorded in the county somewhere. Somebody's got that information. You want to find out, in this case, number one, if they have real estate again, and then number two, you want to find out who's responsible for it, who's the personal representative. Once you have that, you can go from there and get this books or the books into their hands, and also who the attorney is if they have one.
Right. And that one, like you say, the people that now have the home, they're a lot of times out of state, and that's another, different type of time commitment instead of set of guidelines, not guidelines, but kind of like rules that you have to set for yourself to help move that along.
Absolutely. And you have the same kind of charge. I know that when my parents died, there was friction between the three sons. One of them didn't like the fact that another one was the personal representative, and and made choices. He didn't like those choices. So even within our own family, we had disagreements on everything. You have people that don't need the money, and you have people that really need the money. So there might be a difference between somebody who really wants to sell and somebody who says, no, let's wait until the market gets a little better. So you have all those differences. Again, emotions are in there.
Right. So I guess, you, with your experience in the divorce market, this is kind of adding potentially more parties to it, but with your experience, you're able to work with this.
Well, it can be. Sometimes if there's a personal representative who's really taking charge, it's really just one person. And he's going to take the brunt of what the other family members might want. So other times, we're dealing with all 5, 6, or 10 of them. And that can be exhausting.
You've chosen some pretty difficult niches to be in.
Yeah, but here's a nice thing about all of it. Not everybody does it. Everybody talks about doing REO. Everybody talks about doing divorce work, talks about doing probate. Once you buy these books and you have an investment, you will be doing it. And that's a good part about getting the books. It kind of forces you into a situation where you say, oh my, I can't let those sit in the box. I have to get them out. And once you get them out, there's other business to be had.